So let's start with this question. What is a sunset flow? So in a nutshell, the goal of a sunset flow is to make your inactive subscribers decide, do I want to stay or do I want to leave? So here you can see an example. So here we can see the trigger, which is, for example, 50 days inactivity, and then those subscribers will enter a flow where they have to decide if they want to stay on your newsletter or if they want to leave. And I'll explain all the details on how to set this up in a bit. But first we have a misconception. So some people confuse the sunset flow with the win-back flow. So what is a win-back flow? So a win-back flow is a series of 3 to 5 emails sent to past customers who haven't purchased anything from your store in a while. So the contacts targeted with the win-back flow are different from the sunset contacts because win-back flow contacts aren't necessarily inactive. They just haven't made a purchase recently. So that is the big difference between the two. The sunset contacts are inactive and the win-back flow contacts haven't made a purchase recently. So as you can see over here, I made a separate video about the win-back flow. So if you're looking for an in-depth tutorial on how to set up a win-back flow, make sure to check out that video. I'll link it down below in the description. So as I just said, the contacts targeted in the win-back flow are different from the sunset contacts because the win-back flow contacts aren't necessarily inactive. They just haven't made a purchase recently. So what is inactive? So by unresponsive and inactive, I mean contacts who do not click on links in your emails and who do not reply to your emails. In other words, they are not visiting your store's website. Those are the contacts that are inactive in your list. So now you may be wondering why I'm not using the open data in the inactivity over here. So I could say by inactivity, I mean contacts who do not open your emails, right? So the reason I'm not including email opens is because these statistics can be flawed or incorrect. So a quick example is of the Apple Mail app. So if users of the Apple Mail app have the mail privacy protection enabled, it will always show 100% open rates for those contacts, even if they never actually opened the email. In other words, the statistics can be flawed or incorrect, and therefore I'm not using it to find my inactive contacts over here. I'm only looking for link clicks and replies to my emails. So in a sunset flow, we send 1 or 2 emails. So over here, I crafted an example. So our email system shows that you aren't interacting with our emails. You just don't want to send unwanted emails. So we will remove your email address from our newsletter. And now comes the important part. If you think this is a mistake and still want to receive our emails, please click here. And that is the important part. That will add a link in that email and you will not be removed. So if they click the link in that email, basically saying they want to stay on our list, they will be removed from this workflow. So they will be removed from the sunset workflow, and that means we will not remove those contacts. So the contacts that have received this email and didn't click on that link, we will remove those contacts eventually from our list. So why should you create a sunset flow, you might ask? Why would I want to remove contacts from our list, especially because it's so hard to gain new subscribers, right? So 2 reasons. Reason number 1, your email marketing software bill will be lower because you have fewer subscribers. Reason number 2, removing inactive subscribers improves your deliverability, because we're only removing those subscribers that aren't interacting with your emails. So if you have lots of those inactive subscribers, they basically hurt your deliverability. Because if you remove those subscribers, you will have a higher open rate, a higher click rate, etc. So in other words, your sender reputation will go up if you have higher engagement scores. So let's now start by creating the sunset flow in detail. So we have 3 steps. So we have step 1, finding the inactive subscribers. So then step 2, creating the sunset flow, where we will set up this email or maybe another email if you want. And then step 3, delete inactive contacts. So we're gonna remove the ones that didn't click on this link over here. So please click here and you will not be removed. We will remove the contacts who didn't click on that particular link. So I'm using the email marketing tool Omnisend to set up this sunset flow. If you want to support my channel, please make sure to use my link. You can see it here on the screen. It'll also be down below in the description. So the first step is to create a segment called Sunset Segment. So to create a segment, you're going to go to Audience. You're going to click on Segments, create a new segment, create one from scratch. And then over here, you can create that segment. I already created the segment, so I'm just going to walk you through it and explain the filters I've used for this particular segment. So what this first step basically does is finding the inactive subscribers. subscribers. So it doesn't do anything else. It doesn't remove them. It doesn't send them that email. It only finds the inactive subscribers. So these are the filters I've used. So the first one is the subscription status is subscribed to email. So we only want to segment the ones that are subscribe to our email list. Then secondly, we're going to add a new filter that says date of addition is not in the last 75 weeks. So you can obviously change this number if you think this is too high or maybe too low for your business. So if they make a purchase, for example, that is one of the filters we'll check in the sunset segment. So if they make a purchase or started the checkout or viewed one page or clicked on one link in your email in those 75 weeks, we will not remove or we will not activate this sunset flow for that particular contact. That is something you have to keep in mind. We're giving them 75 weeks and they can do basically one of these four things. So place an order, start a checkout, view a page, or click a link on an email. If they do one of those things, we will not see them as inactive in our list in this definition of 75 weeks. So as you can see, I added 4 more filters over here. So who have not placed an order at least one time in the last 75 weeks, have not started checkout at least one time I now see this is not, so this should be in the last 75 weeks. Then another filter, have not viewed a page at least one time in the last 75 weeks. And then another one, have not clicked on a link in an email at least one time in the last 75 weeks. So when you're creating a segment, so in this case, I'm going to click on update segment. You're probably going to click on create the segment because it's a new segment for you. So I'm going to click on update segment. Then we're at step 2, creating the sunset flow, where we're going to send the subscriber the email. So we're going to send the inactive subscriber based on our segment criteria. We're going to send that subscriber the email saying we're going to split ways basically. So you're going to click on automation to create the workflow, to create the sunset workflow. So I'm going to click on create a new workflow. And then I'm going to create a new workflow from scratch. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give this workflow a name. So I'm going to call it the sunset flow, and I'm going to click on update. And then the next thing is we have to add a trigger. And for the trigger, we're going to use the segment. So whenever someone enters the segment we just created, we want to add them to this particular workflow. So we're going to select that segment we just created. So I'm going to say trigger filters, segment is, and we're going to select the segment we just created, which is the sunset segment. I'm going to click on save. So this workflow will now trigger when someone enters that segment, and then we want to remove the contact whenever someone leaves that segment. So whenever someone purchases a product when they are in that segment, or whenever someone visits our website, we want them to be removed from this workflow. So exit condition, and I'm gonna say segment again, segment, exited segment, and I'm going to select the segment we just created, the sunset segment. I'm going to click on save. And then for frequency, I'm going to disable this one, because in the unlikelihood that someone re-enters the sunset segment, I want to re-enter them to this workflow. So I'm going to click on update over here. And then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add an email, which is the email I showed you in the beginning. So an example subject line could be, is this goodbye? Then for the sender's name, you can be personal, using your first name and your last name instead of the company name to make it more personal. I'm going to edit the content of the email, and I want to save this workflow. So I'm going to click on yes, save. And I'm going to use a text email. So I'm going to copy this text over here, and I'm going to drag it over here. So this is the text I'm going to use. So, hey, our email system shows that you aren't interacting with our emails. You're probably busy living your life, and that's totally fine. We just don't want to send unwanted emails, so we will remove your email address from our newsletter, and you will not receive any more emails from us in the future. If you think this is a mistake and still want to receive our emails, please click here, and there you want to add a link to your store, for example. Maybe better is to create a custom landing page for this particular link that says, thank you for letting us know that you want to stay in our newsletter, and then maybe showcase your best-selling products. So you want to add a link over here that's really important. So I'm going to insert a link over here. In this case, I'm just going to add a hashtag since this is an example. So click here. So we have a link over there, and then maybe end with this, all the best, Robin, your name. And then I'm going to click on finish editing. So the next thing you want to do is we're going to add a delay. We want to give them some time to read that email and to maybe click on that link in that email before we're going to remove those contacts, right? So I'm going to add a delay over here, and I'm going to say, for example, 7 days, and I'm going to click on update. So then if after 7 days they still didn't click that link, we can basically remove those contacts from our email list because they haven't clicked any link in the last 75 weeks. They haven't purchased anything from our store, they didn't visit our store, and they haven't clicked that link in this particular email. So we can remove those contacts since they are not engaged with our content. So what is too bad, Omnisend doesn't allow us to automatically remove those contacts. So it would have been nice if we had an action over here that says unsubscribe the contact from our list that we can just drag and drop below here, so unsubscribe from the list. But sadly, Omnisend doesn't have that option. So we have to manually remove those contacts. So one way to do that is to tag the contacts that haven't responded after those 7 days. So I'm going to click on tag the contact, I'm going to drag it, and I'm going to drop it below the 7 days over here. And then I'm going to add a new tag. So you can call it, for example, unengaged, and then you're going to click on update. So if someone didn't click on the link after 7 days, they will receive that tag unengaged. So you're going to click on start the workflow, and now we're at step 3, delete inactive contacts. So as I previously mentioned, Omnisend doesn't allow us to automatically delete those contacts, so we have to do that manually. And to do so, we have to go to segments and we have to create a new segment. So I'm going to click on create a new segment. I'm going to create a segment from scratch, and then over here I'm going to add new filters. So this is the name I gave my segment. So unengaged contacts, delete this. And I don't mean delete this segment, so maybe a better name is delete these contacts, because from now on you'll use this segment, for example, every month, or it depends on how many contacts you have in this segment basically, but you're gonna remove the contacts manually. It doesn't really matter what the frequency is. If you see a couple of contacts in this list, you can delete them basically. So whenever you see contacts in this list, you're gonna click on this thing over here. So if I show you a different segment where I have some contacts in my segment, so you can basically click this checkbox over here and then select all 65 contacts, and then for the actions you're gonna say unsubscribe from my list. So coming back to this segment, so the first filter you're going to use is the tag. So the tag is unengaged. That is the tag we just gave, right? So the subscription status is subscribed to email. That is the second filter. And then we have the third filter. So this step might not be necessary. It's an extra step because we already checked whether or not they clicked on a link in an email. But here you have an extra security step. We have not clicked a link on an email at least one time in the last 45 days. And then you're going to click on create this segment. And that's it. Whenever you see contacts in this list, you're going to manually remove them by selecting all the contacts and unsubscribing them from your email list. So again, it would have been easier if Omnisend had the option where we can just automatically remove the contacts that aren't interacting with our emails. But sadly, we have to do a workaround where we have to do some manual steps, but it's not a big deal. So that's it basically. So if you want to have access to the presentation slides I've used, so there's lots of valuable content in this presentation. So for example, if we scroll down a little bit here, you can see step 1, finding the inactive subscribers. It'll explain in detail all the different steps. So step 2, creating the sunset flow. There's a detailed explanation of all the different steps you have to take. So step 3, delete inactive contacts, a screenshot with a detailed explanation over here. So if you want to have access to that, you can download it for free. I'll leave a link down below in the description. You just have to enter your email address over here, and then you have to decide whether or not you want to subscribe to my weekly newsletter where I update you on industry marketing news. It's really good, by the way. Or you can just say no thank you, enter your email address, click on the free download, and you'll receive that free download, and you'll never hear from me again if you don't click the first option over here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.